Hey there! During this episode of King's Bounty 2 Developer Diaries, we will answer your questions about the game. King's Bounty 2 will be released simultaneously on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. The Switch version will feature the exact same content and gameplay as the others.
Я бы не сказал, что King's Bounty 2...
I wouldn't call it dark fantasy. King's Bounty 2 is high fantasy, but with some realistic elements. We did consider making the game more fairy tale-like, but it wouldn't have been a good fit for the main story. We want to show gamers something bigger, different, more complex topics, but within the parameters of the 12+ rating, so less of the gloom, gore, and other dark fantasy tropes. I would describe the game's genre as realistic high fantasy.
Все-таки реалистичная, высокая фэнтези.
In the world of Antara, where King's Bounty 2 is set, the gods have created multiple sentient races. There are humans, undead, dragons, dwarfs, trolls, and a few other races, but I'm not allowed to talk about them just yet. Each race has at least 2 and sometimes 3 factions, and each faction has its own set of units and a particular fighting style. For example, the Royal Guard is more defensive in their tactics, while bandits favor offense.
Скорее, более агрессивный стиль.
Besides sentient species like dwarfs and humans, you'll meet several other kinds of creatures. There's a wide variety of undead, as well as griffins, trolls, magical constructs, and much more. In my opinion, the most fantastic creature in our game is the Chimera. There are over 70 unit types in King's Bounty 2 that you can recruit for yourself or face on the battlefield. You can't equip your units with artifacts, but you can equip them yourself. Any artifact worn by your hero will directly benefit your units. So, by collecting certain artifact sets, you can customize your army to, for example, harden their armor. Or if you prefer close combat, equip a sword that strengthens your unit's melee attacks. The huge variety of artifacts and units on offer means plenty of options supporting many different playstyles. You can also customize your character. Every single equipped item, including helmets, amulets, pants, etc., will be visible on the hero. Each soldier in a squad is slightly different from the next. They have different facial features and some clothing variations. For example, a group of 10 spearmen will all wear the same outfit, but one may have a beard, another a mustache. One of them may have a smudge on his helmet. Every soldier is different. As a unit gains experience, it gains rank, and each new rank affects the unit's visuals. You can literally see when they've improved. Their stats also change, of course. They become stronger, more resilient, and better in a fight. Any units may be kept in reserve. Different enemies require different approaches and varying combinations of units to defeat them. Some units perform well against magical creatures, others against armored enemies. If your enemy has a lot of archers, you'll need a completely different setup. But your reserve has no limits. If you want, you can buy every available unit and keep them in reserve. You can deploy no more than 5 squads on the battlefield. The heroes of King's Bounty 2 have a leadership skill, which corresponds to the maximum number of soldiers per squad. There's also a hard limit on how many units you can place in a single hex. You may only deploy one large creature, like a dragon, in a hex, but you can place multiple spearmen in the same hex. So, to field the maximum number of soldiers in one squad, you'll need to improve your leadership. The war dogs, for instance, start with only 3 dogs, but as you improve your leadership, that limit will increase. You may eventually gain the ability to field a 6th unit, depending on how you complete various quests.
Отсылок и пасхалок.
We've hidden plenty of Easter eggs for the player to find. There are references to movies, books, and other fantasy games, and naturally, we included many references to previous King's Bounty games. I'm a huge fan of Van Canahan, so most of them refer to the first game in the series. If you pay attention, explore, and read the various texts, you'll be rewarded with many of these little surprises.
Если вчитается в текст.
We have no plans for multiplayer at launch. Multiplayer would be a very clunky fit for a big, story-driven RPG like this one, which has been carefully tailored for an immersive single-player experience. Therefore, it's unlikely we would develop a multiplayer mode based on King's Bounty 2's RPG system. But if we're talking about a separate tactical mode, like an arena where you fight against other players, we might consider it. Such a mode definitely won't be available on release, it's not in the works right now. If there's a lot of interest in this type of game, well, we would definitely give it some thought.
Запросов обязательно подумаем над этим.
We hope you've enjoyed this development diary. Please enter any follow-up questions in the comments below, and we'll be sure to answer them in an upcoming episode.